Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Fight, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut. And here we go. Here we go again, live and in barely audio. Who knows? Who knows at this point? Holla, can you hear me? Yes, this was a request. Someone asked me, why don't you play the music? You play the Let's Go Mets all the time. Why don't you play the song from '86? They were so great, that team. They didn't even win a championship yet. And they were doing a music video. You're old enough, you remember the Chicago Bears, they did a video after they won. The 86 Mets was so great, they did it before they won. Let me get to the chat. Now, we're going to go through 8 o'clock a little bit because we got the non-tender deadline. And we're not going to go all night. I got another live stream to do on the Patriot Hut. But couple guys on the bubbles, Robert Gazelman, Joey Lucchese, and Trevor Williams. So we'll see if these guys are going to be let go by the Mets. Hello, Garden State Gardner, Nelson Cruz, John Talento, and Fantasy Sports Revolution. Now we have something new on the channel. If you want to participate in the chat, you got to subscribe, and then they put you in like a 5-minute box, like sort of letting the ball out of the cage. So you get to wait for about 5 minutes after you subscribe. So, and plus it holds down the bots and the trolls and everything else. But Fantasy Sports Revolution says Mets need another big bat. Hopefully they try to get Bryant. Well, I don't think there are going to be too many more big moves now between now and midnight. Midnight comes and it's basically the witching hour, and that's when we have the situation with the CBA up. And from what I've been reading the last little bit, it doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of like deal between the players and the owners. And I've been thinking that this is probably going to go on for quite a while, this lockout. So But there will be stuff about the Mets because the Mets don't have much of a front office that's put together. They don't have a manager still, and they don't have a uh, any coaching staff. They don't have a coaching staff. Now it will be interesting to see who becomes the manager. Buck Showalter and Brad Ausmus seem to be the big names that are out there. I would mention that Ausmus managed uh, Max Scherzer in 2014, so he has an idea. And that year they won the division out in the American League Central. Um, so we will have an idea. I would think between now and Christmas, I would think within the next 2 weeks we'll have a manager here in place. And I really would like to see Buck Showalter do it. They've done a good job bringing in some character guys into the clubhouse. I like to see them get a very strong manager in here, and he's about as strong as you can get. I don't know much about Osmus in terms of just in terms of how strong he is, but he didn't do well in the when the teams weren't good. They sort of didn't do well. And same with Buck in Baltimore. They stopped spending money down there. I don't know what they're still doing down there, but very very strange situation down in Baltimore. But there's some news obviously today. Thumbs down to Javi Baez, or maybe the middle finger to him, because now he is now he is gone. He has signed with the Detroit Tigers for 6 years, $140 million. You know, again, and notice all the guys that was sort of an issue, they're all gone. Baez is gone. Stroman is gone. I don't know where Stroman's going to go. Um, Kevin Pillar is gone. To a lesser extent, Michael Conforto is gone. So a lot of the sort of contain, not the contains, but sort of the guys that sort of, um, you know. I mean, really, a lot of times Michael Conforto was like a potted plant. A potted plant had a better chance to get a hit with men on base than he did. And he's gone. The teams attached to him, from what we've heard, market for the hitters have been very slow for the most part, except for the shortstops. The shortstops have gone crazy. But I've heard nothing with Conforto other than the Mariners and the Phillies. And it seems like the Phillies are in a lot of plays. The Phillies are in on Chris Bryant, and they're in on Conforto. But really, the shortstops have gotten signed. Simeon went to the Rangers. Uh, Seager went to the Rangers. I would assume Seager would be the shortstop, and Simeon will be the second baseman. That's a big move. Um, Baez went to the Tigers. Trevor Story's still out there. Carlos Correa's still out there. Um, in my view, I've mentioned this a couple times. I would not mind bringing in Trevor Story for this Met team and play him at second. Quite frankly, um, I would seriously think about it. You know, they need another bat in this lineup, and he's a big name. And people do kind of Google him. He's very popular online, as I've found out. He's an interesting name for me. Now, Chris Bryant is the other guy, but I don't think he's getting signed before midnight. I don't see that happening. Let's see what's going on. Let's take a peek. Okay. Thank you, Garden State Gardener from Tim Healy. The Mets have non-tender Robert Gazelman. He becomes a free agent. In other words, skadoosh. And of course, if he pitches 20 more games in his life, and pitches one great game against the Mets, they'll say that he got revenge against the Mets. That's what the media will say. But he's gone. Rob Gazelman's gone, which was not a surprise. If you figured he would be the guy that would get the axe. He's another one that is a bit of a. He's tough to deal with. We know the whole thing that happened a few years ago when he basically went after Sandy. You don't go after your boss, and you certainly don't do it in New York, and you certainly don't do it in public like he did. What is? Oh my goodness, what is going on with the Braves and Freddie Freeman? I'm going to read you this from John Heyman. Braves have checked in on the A's star first baseman Matt Olson, presumably as a contingency plan in case Freddie Freeman leaves via free agency. Most still have a hard time envisioning Freeman in any other uniform, but Braves want to be prepared. Wow, that's quite the shocker. I've heard that the Dodgers are very interested in him. The the Braves don't want to give him a 6 year. Give the guy a 6 year. Guy's earned it. He's earned it. Guys won an MVP. They won a World Series. He won that last World Series game for them. You know, just give him what he wants. I could see him leaving now. I didn't think normally I would see him leave, but now I'm starting to think that he might just be gone. Fantasy Sports Revolution says Gazelman stunk anyway. Mets getting rid of a lot of dead weight. They got rid of a lot. I mean, dead weight is a word to call. I mean, dead weight is a good way to call a Gazelman. But he did help them get to the playoffs in 2016. You can't forget about that. From Tremont Productions, I'll tell you what now. Buy the whole Tigers team, take buys and sell sell the Tigers. I'll tell you. We'll see what happens with Matthew Boyd. There's been a lot of rumors that the Mets will be interesting. I saw a rumor. I saw a rumor, which I don't know if you'll all be too happy about, and that is the Mets are kind of interested in Jeurys Familia, bringing him back. From what I could tell, it seems like they're a little bit interested in bringing him back. I don't know if I would do that. Uh, yes, the wow is that the Braves might be moving on from Freddie Freeman. That they've talked to the A's about Matt Olson, and that is a very interesting thing. We've heard the Yankees interested in Matt Olson, but I don't know what the hell the Yankees are doing either. Two teams that don't make any sense to me. Yankees don't make any sense right now. It's almost like they've become the Mets at this point. Crazy, crazy stuff. But so we'll run down a couple of things here along the way. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Also, Brandon Nimmo, the Mets are very interested in bringing him back and giving him an extension, which I don't think that's a bad thing. We know Brandon has been in that clubhouse, but he plays very hard. How many players? He's the only player that runs the first on a walk. You're supposed to walk the first, not run the first on a walk. Or when he gets hit, he runs the first. The Braves aren't poor. The Braves are far from poor. Far from it. How can they be poor? They won the World Series. But Brandon Nimmo, the Mets are interested in bringing back Brandon Nimmo on an extension, maybe a 3 or 4 year deal after this year. That's not a bad idea. The fact that he's not going to be playing center field, that might take away a lot of that wear and tear. I noticed that a lot of his injuries, especially to his hamstrings, have been on these plays where he's had to dive, and then a day or two later, he's had problems with the hamstrings. Almost like he stretched his body out to the point of like a rubber band, and he hurts himself. So he is a guy I would love to see get a full commitment here. To be honest with you, just due to the fact that he's a good guy and he plays very hard for the Mets. And he does a good job, And he's gotten better. He's gotten a lot better. His average has gone up. His on base has been great. His slugging has gone up. He gets on base, constantly taking the walks, and but he won't be the leadoff hitter on this team now with Marte. Marte will be the leadoff hitter now. So we have him there. We have Eduardo Escobar. He'll be the third baseman, I would think. Third baseman, second baseman, DH, play first once in a while. They're in good shape with him. They only have him on a 2 year deal. Mark Kanya, he is. I don't know much about him since he played it. Now I'm going to tell you something. I will not lie to you and tell you I know a player like since I haven't seen there's certain players I haven't seen. So I'll never say that a player I know everything about this player. Blah blah blah. I won't tell you that. So he's one guy I don't know much about because he's been in Oakland all these years. Drunken Sailor, Mets need an RBI machine guy, an extra bat. I agree with you. I agree with you. Number one guy now is Chris Bryant. I'd say that the Mets didn't get Javier Baez. They should focus in again on Chris Bryant. But he's going to be looking for a big deal. He's a Scott Boras client. He's a guy that extremely talented, versatile, um, and the Mets have been trying to get him for the past year. I'd like to see the Mets get him now. You could play him a little bit of third. Um, with the young players that the Mets have, and Vientos and Beatty in particular, he can sort of keep the seat warm there until they're ready. And not for nothing. So, saying in 2 years, Kanye's contract is up, he moves on. You could put Bryant in right field. You can play Beatty every day in third base, and you have the DH. That makes a big deal. Now, I do believe they need another bat in this lineup. Now, I am glad that the first things they addressed was the offense, bringing in uh, those three players, Marte, Kanya, and Escobar, is going to make a big difference in terms of just just you get professional guys in there. Um, is it a championship level lineup? No, but there'll be more ball games now. They'll win more games with these guys. Uh, the Mets weren't going to go past a certain amount of money and a certain amount of years for him, for Baez. They weren't going to do that. 5 for 125 fantasy sports says they offered Baez 5 for 125 before he went to Detroit. Maybe he could offer Bryant 5 for 150. He's not going to want five. He's going to want more years than that. He's going to want more years. Um, that's the one thing. Um, he's going to want more years. I could see him wanting a George Springer contract. Something in that ballpark. Uh, John Talento says we have to address the bullpen before it's too late. Too late. This is first of all, we have less than 5 hours. Okay, there's gonna be a lockout, and that lockout comes. All the player transactions are frozen, and once that happens, nobody's doing anything. So, and you always fiddle with the bullpen in the season anyway. And I'm gonna point something out. They're not getting a closer. Mets are not getting a closer. They will go with unfortunately uh, Edwin Diaz because they'll hope that Edwin Diaz on a walk year is going to have a big year. That's what they're going to hope for. And to be honest with you, just let him finish out the year, finish out his contract here. If it gets to the point in the middle of the season the Mets are really in it and he's blowing games, then you could bring in somebody that can close. Crush Station Radio. There's a lockout. Ha ha. Don't bother. That could be a strike next. I don't understand that. There's only a strike if the players are playing. A lockout is something totally different. That means there's no contract. Players strike when they're playing. So if this was in season, the players could have said during the middle of the season, said, you know what, the contract's coming up. We're going to strike before that. That's a strike. That's not a lockdown or a lockout. Right now, there's going to be a lockout. I don't think you understand that. That's silly. But yeah, the Mets offered to buy his 5 years, 125 million. That's fair. What he got was fair. What the Mets offer was fair. What the Tigers gave him was fair. Um, you know, but he wanted more. He wanted more years. He wanted more money. That's fine. And he wanted to play shortstop. The guy's a shortstop. From Fantasy Sports Revolution. How long do you think the lockout lasts? I think probably till February. I'm thinking probably February 1st. February 1st, unfortunately. I really feel that. I think that's when it's going to continue. It's going to be a very, very long lockout. This is going to go on a long time. Because the owners, normally, normally I don't take the player's side in the past. But in this situation, I take the player's side because of the fact that uh, we have a very incompetent um, commissioner and Manfred. He is a disaster, and I concern myself with him because he's an SJW. He's bought and paid for by China. He's done a lot of like stupid things. If it wasn't for the players, we would not have had a full season. We wouldn't have had 162 games. He wanted to play 154 games. The players and they didn't want to play. He didn't want to play in April. The players pushed him to get to April. They had that option. So I think the players will be the ones with the level heads here. And the owners want to do this thing, this algorithm based way of determining the performance of the players. That's a disaster waiting to happen because you can manipulate a computer and an algorithm. Never forget, with a computer, it's programmed by a human being. It doesn't do things on its own. Drunken Sailor. Who is the best option to fill second base? Well, right now, it's Jeff McNeil. Right now, it's Jeff McNeil. Now, McNeil, we know, is 300 hitter. Is his attitude going to be better? It's going to have to be better. If he's on this team with Scherzer, Scherzer's not going to put up with the sort of antics of him, being pissed that he didn't get a hit or not, especially not being in a spot on the field. You know, and if they're playing the guys to pull her in the hole, there's no way he's going to put up with that. Nicole Wood, what now, Hut? Who could we add that you feel could help? Well, Chris Bryant to start. That could help. They do need pitching still. I know they've talked to Carlos Rodon. They've talked to this what the hell's his name? Kikichi. And they need another bat. That should be a big priority to me. And they could use another starter, if not two more starters. Be honest with you, I'm not sold completely on McGill or Peterson helping them out all year. McGill's going to be on a pitch count, going to be on an inning count. Same thing with Peterson to a certain degree. Obviously, Jacob DeGrom's going to be on they're going to be watching him like a hawk. So I could see them, they could use two more pitchers, and they could probably, use another bat. They could probably use another outfielder, a left-handed hitting outfielder that could hit a little bit. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. They've done so much work. I mean, bringing in Marte was a big deal, but they need guys. Now he'll get on base, but they could use another bat. Escobar's going to help. Kanye's going to help. And we'll see. Kenneth Flood, Fonzie for manager, and Piazza for hitting coach. Well, that's ridiculous. From Hansel Lima, with more veterans this year, I don't think McNeil's attitude will be an issue. Yeah, but it depends on the veterans. If you have a guy like Scherzer in that clubhouse, that behavior is not gonna last long. There's a seriousness when you bring a guy like that in. When you bring a guy like that in, you're telling your team that we're serious about winning. Scherzer is a serious guy, extremely serious. He doesn't fool around. There's no playing games. He's super prepared. He's a beast out there on the mound. But in between starts, he's a good teammate from what they've said. But he is not one to really fool around. What? Hello, Southern Cal Mets fan. Hello, Richard. You think we can get Bryant on a short-term deal like Scherzer? No, he's going to want more years. He's going to want 6 years. He's going to want 6 years. He's not going to be looking for a short-term contract. Scherzer's a little bit different because he's older. Let me just give you an update. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind here. Seems like 28 hours to the lockout. So we got tomorrow too. So 8 o'clock. What's important about 8 o'clock, to mention this again, is we have the non-tenders, meaning that teams will offer or not offer contracts to their players that they have on their roster, whether it be in the 40-man or beyond. We know so far that Robert Gazelman is gone. So he's one guy that was going to be gone and is gone. Nicole Wood wants to know, do you think Pilar will return? No, because the Mets did not pick up his option, and he didn't want to be here either. So he kind of moved on. It's a bit of a problem, too, in that clubhouse. He was one of the guys that was doing the thumbs down. You can't have guys doing thumbs down to players, I mean, to fans. You can't do that. Hold on, I need a drink. Look, look, look. You can't have that. You know, all the guys that were doing that except for Lindor, they're all gone. And Pilar was a bit player anyway. Uh, he had a bit of a good run here and there, but he's gone. Steve Perez, I hope Trevor Williams sticks around. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. How you doing there, Steve? From Southern Cal, Mets fan. Buck definitely needs to be our manager so he can tame Scherzer. Scherzer can get hot headed when being taken out. Nah, that's okay. Let him be hot headed. let him be. Let him be himself. We want guys on the Mets that are like that don't want to be taken out, that want to be in control of the game. Now he might not be able to do it anymore because of his age, you know, and he's all done a lot of innings now. Let me take a look on the side. Now, please like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe. And of course, please, please take a look at the chat. And if you are new to the chat, please subscribe. It's very, very simple. He's on 2,500 innings. So that's a lot of innings. 2,500 innings. He's got 3,000 strikeouts. Wonder if he'll get 4,000 strikeouts. That's a That's an interesting thing. Nicole Wood says Pilar was awesome for us. Yeah, on a 77 and 86, 85 team. You know, Station Radio. I love the Scherzer sign. Well, who doesn't? We know he does. He signed a lot of money with the Mets. Let's see. Crush Station Radio also says, with this type of great pitcher, the older age doesn't matter. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Let's see. Adele Chapman. What about Villar? Villar is gone because they picked up Escobar. He's a better version. He's a thumper. He'll hit for power, a lot more power than Villar. I liked Villar, but also he was a guy that was in that clubhouse too. I'm not saying he was a bad guy, but you know, they need to move on. They need to get as rid of many of these bit players as they could. Um, Chris asked, do you think we can get Bryant and trade for a third starter? I think so. Well, I don't know about trading for a third starter. You could probably pick one up. Carlos Rodon's out there. You know, he's a guy you could pick up. He would not be a problem getting. You just have to give him money. You don't have to give up like a draft pick or anything like that. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? um, it's not a situation where you have to sort of um, get yourself all worked up. You don't have to go crazy trading for somebody. Southern Cal Mets fan. Pete Crow Armstrong caused 47 games of bias. You know what? I'm not a Pete Crow Armstrong fan. I got a bad feeling about him, and I don't think he can hit. When you hear players that get drafted, that he's a good glove, uh, but there's questions about his bat, red flags in my mind go up. And when I think of him, I think of this image of Jason Tyner. The Mets drafted him number one years ago, and he couldn't hit either. And he was a great defensive player. He could bunt. He was a good bunter, you know. But that's how I look at Pete Crow Armstrong. And he's a little woke too. He's another guy that's very very woke. I'd stay away from him. Uh, Vintage skills is that's correct. Khalil Lee replaced Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah, pretty much. There's still the same questions about him too. Great defensive out. He's a great outfielder. We saw that in this last year. He's a great outfielder. Whether he's going to hit, that's the question mark with Lee. He went back to AAA. He hit better. There were really good reports on him. They didn't call him back up a lot. I like what I saw, but he needs to pick up the pace of the bat. That's for sure. From Chris, I sound unbiased at the thumbs down stuff. I thought it wasn't what this team wants to be. No, I didn't like that either, and I think that the Mets kind of looked at it too. They liked him. I think they look at it as like he made a mistake. He made a mistake, and all these guys made mistakes. But if they have a choice of signing him, not signing him for more money than they probably wanted to, they weren't going to go that number. They had a number. They weren't going to budge off that number. Um, from Steve Perez, Khalil Lee is very underrated, great young man. Watch this kid also. Nick Plumer, signing, keep an eye on. Well, he's now the ninth best prospect in the Mets organization. That doesn't say much about the Mets prospects. But that's what they're going to have to do to improve the farm system is bringing in guys like him. Somebody mentioned about McNeil, Davis, and Smith. Right now, Jeff McNeil's not going anywhere because the Mets don't have a second baseman. Okay. Then, in all likelihood, Escobar will be playing third. Uh, and I don't see that really happening. Um, so I think McNeil is not going to be going anywhere. The other guys are a different story. Davis is probably now. I think the Mets kind of look at him as a bench piece. That he's going to be a bench guy, a little bit of DH, a little bit third, and really that's pretty much it. I don't know about that. I think you just move on from him. Dom Smith doesn't. Dom Smith, I I just he, I just beat up the hell. I beat the hell up on him. Um, I am not a big fan of his. I think he's. I think he has a slow bat. I think he's good. He's a good defensive baseman. He's not a great defensive baseman. He's a little shaky at times. I think Pete is probably more solid over the course of a career than Dom is. Dom will make great plays, but I think he could be a little too flashy for me. Um, and I I just don't like his. I never liked his bat. I always thought the bat was slow. Um, he got kind of out of shape at the end of last season a little bit. I think maybe because he was a little down that he wasn't playing every day. Um, he doesn't give you what you need offensively, not for left field, and you're not going to replace him at Pete with Dom at first. So that's not going to work. So what are you going to do with Dom? He's a guy that doesn't have a team. So there's probably a good chance he's probably going to be gone at some point. From Matthew Landau, just got here. What's your thoughts on today and Baez? There's nothing really going on today. It's been very quiet today with the Mets. Um, you know, they didn't make any moves today, which doesn't surprise me because they said last night there wasn't going to be any moves being made. What do I think of Baez? Like I said, in the videos and the live streams, I felt that the Mets. I was like half and half on Baez. If he stayed, great. If he left, meh. That's how I felt today. Meh. You know, the Mets were not going to go past a certain price with him. They had a price in mind. They weren't budging. They had a certain amount of years on him. They weren't budging, and that's kind of how they looked at it. From Vintage Skills, if we didn't have Cano, JD would be the best DH we have. Let me tell you something about JD Davis. You look at his numbers; they lie. His numbers look better than what the eye was telling you. The guy wasn't getting any hits with men on base. He can't hit a fastball. You know, from Steve. I'll continue to say, well, it's certainly bad optics after the choking story coming out. McNeil could be a regular second base and have a great year. I think him and Lindor got over all that BS. First of all, I don't think McNeil's a second base is an everyday second baseman. I think he's the kind of player that needs to play around a little bit. You know, most of the time he plays second, he plays left, plays right, plays third time to time, DHs. I don't look at him as a really an everyday second baseman. I just don't think he's strong enough defensively. Um, Brian Dolan. McNeil can play second and have Cano DH. Cano is not going to be on the field. If he plays on the field, he'll probably play third. I don't think he's going to be playing second anymore. Uh, I don't think Robinson Cano is going to be playing second. He'll be playing third, maybe first a little bit, and he'll be DH if he's on this team. From Chris NY24, Dom's attitude definitely changed. He showed no emotion. He was down. I mean, you could see it. You know, you could see it. He did change it. The body language was very different. That's the one thing about his reputation. He doesn't have a bad reputation, but the reputation he has is that his body language on the field is not great. Uh, that's the one thing about him. His body language isn't that great. Nicole Wood, who's got a love thing going with for Kevin Pillar. I would love to see Pillar stay with the Mets. I love the Mets, so it makes me feel less a traitor. As I used to be a Red Sox fan. You were a Red Sox fan? Used to be a Red Sox fan. They've been winning like crazy. And you're not a Red Sox fan anymore? That's a little strange. And now you're a Mets fan? You know, that's a little odd. Uh, Steve Perez at Chris McNeil literally is a natural second baseman. You look at his stats, he's above average at several positions, not to mention second, which is his natural position. You know, in the minor leagues, uh, McNeil played everywhere. He was a utility guy in the minor leagues, and it looks like it. You know, um, so he's been sort of a guy that he's bounced around in the minor leagues. You look at his minor league statistics and where he's played everywhere in the minors. So it's not like a situation he's not like a fish out of water when they put him in a different position. He's used to that. He was not an everyday play. He wasn't like an everyday player in the sense that he played one position. The thing about McNeil in the minor leagues, he's always getting hurt. There wasn't really a sense of what kind of player he was because he was always hurt and he was always playing all over the place. So he's looked as a guy that played everywhere. Crush Station Radio. Those guys are sure to follow in the footsteps of Justin Turner, Daniel Murphy after they are traded. But I say do it. Well, first of all, those guys didn't get traded. Okay, you can't run your team worrying about guys that getting trading guys and leaving. Let's talk about Justin Turner for a minute. Before Justin Turner got to the Mets, now he was with the Mets 4 years. He was the last guy on the bench. He's 25th man for 4 years. The guy was drafted by the Reds, right? Drafted by the Reds prior to that, and he got traded to the Baltimore Orioles, and he played for Buck Showalter. They released him. They put Justin Turner on waivers. The Mets picked him up, and he was the Mets. He was basically a backup. He had his moments, but nothing crazy. The Mets then let him go. They didn't tender him a contract. But before that, he starts playing with Marlon Byrd, who's a two-time PED user and gets suspended 2 times. He plays on him. He credits this guy from helping him in his career. That doesn't look suspicious when you see the production that he's had with the Dodgers. It's a little suspicious to me. You know, I mean that was so suspicious. Who would have thought that a guy that was a backup player on a bad team, by the way, the Mets were bad those years, and he was on the Mets. So who would have thought that he'd go on being an all-star? It was a very suspicious situation there. And then he changed his whole approach as a hitter, because when he was here with the Mets, he was taking pitches. He was taking 3-1 pitches down the middle in the ninth inning, and he would strike out, called out strike. Called out on strikes all the time to finish out the game. That's one guy. Daniel Murphy. Let's talk about Murphy for a minute. Now we love Murphy. He was here a long time, but Murphy was a goof. Okay. Prior to him, prior to Daniel Murphy, uh, becoming this legendary postseason player, this was a guy who, first of all, he came up as a third baseman. The Mets decided to play him at second because they had David Wright. So they played him at second. They kind of realized he's not that great of a defensive second baseman. So they kind of moved him around. So they decided, all right, let's put him in left. He's not a left fielder. We'll never forget how Johan Santana stared him down on opening day because he blew a ball in the outfield. Then they say, all right, we're going to play him at first. Okay, they played him so they sent him to the minor leagues before 2010. He hurts his knee, gets his knee blown out, getting taken out at second base. So finally, he gets on the field for the Mets. Gets hurt again the following year, blows his knee out. But in 2013, he hit 6 home runs that year. And he didn't hit his first home run till August. So 2015 comes, he starts hitting home runs, at the end of August and September. He's a very good September, and he has a great October. Nobody, and we point out that Daniel Murphy is one of the worst base runners in the history of the New York Mets. We didn't forget about that. How bad he was in the field, how bad he was on the base paths, but he could hit for average, but he didn't have any power. The Mets were trying to trade him for years. They couldn't move him because he was unmovable because of those qualities, and they were on a bad team. So Murph has this great postseason. He has this great postseason, and what happens? The Mets give him a contract, a qualified offer. He doesn't take it. He can't find a place to play, and he signs a contract with the Nationals for less money than what the Mets offered him. So nobody knew that Murph was going to be that player. And then he goes on and people say, well, the Mets made a mistake. The mistake was that he didn't sign with the Mets because he took less money for 2016. The Mets wouldn't know what kind of player he was. Nobody knew that he was going to be this guy only for 2 years, and then his career was done. Okay, Steve Perez. Turner's story is definitely strange, but I don't know. Maybe going back home changed things for him, and something clicked. Yeah, okay. Something clicked, all right. Marco G.A. He's got Shaggy on as his picture. That's kind of cool. Not mad Javi is gone. Going forward with this team has to really turn it down on the strikeouts. The Kanye signing will do just that. Well, I don't. Like I said, I'm not going to talk much about Kanye because I have not seen him, but they said that he gets on base. He's got some power. He's a good defensive outfielder. We'll see. Matthew Landau says, Hut, would you say Scherzer's the second best pitcher in the major leagues after DeGrom? You got Walker Buehler. You got Shane Bieber in Cleveland. He's up there. He's certainly up there. Hey, Hut, not to change subjects, but you talk Major League Baseball changing baseball yet? Nuts. Pete Alonso literally called them out on it back in June, and everyone was calling him crazy. They're going to change him again. They're going to make him tackier. They're going to put more tack on it. And, that's what I heard. They're going to make it stickier. I don't know why they would do that. Uh, from Brandel. The Mets need to pick up Chafin. That's Andrew Chafin, the lefty reliever. I agree. He's a good pitcher. I saw him with the Cubs. He's good. He's pretty good. Um, Depends on what he's looking for. I haven't heard too many. Other than the Mets, I haven't. I'm sure a lot of teams on him, but I haven't heard anything recently. Uh, Luz Brinson was designated for a sign by the Marlins. I know we all care about the Marlins here. uh, let's see. Let me see. Hold on. Please like this video if you haven't already, and of course subscribe to the channel. Let me just take a peek here on the side here. Yeah, so we'll go on for a little bit longer. We want to see if the Mets non-tender any other contracts, and then I'm going to call it a night on this channel. And then I'm going to take a bit of a break, and then we'll do a live show on the Patriot Hut. Okay. Sorry, Brian. I did not miss your comment. You think the Mets get Rodon or Brian? If not, who do you think they will get? Well, I know they were talking about Rodon, especially if they signed Scherzer. It was talked about yesterday that was the other starter. Bryant, I don't know. I know that the Marlins are on him pretty good. I heard the Phillies were on him pretty good, but we're running out of time. We got less than 4 hours, 3 hours or almost 4 hours now. So we're running out of time. Where he's gonna go. Because once we get past tonight, that's it. I think. I don't even know. And then I'm hearing different things. I think it's tomorrow's the deadline. I don't even know. But we're reaching the end here. That's for sure. But Brian, I've been on Brian for a while. I like him. And since they didn't re-sign Baez, I would very much wouldn't mind having him back. Having him here. I'm sorry. Would have him here. I actually like him more than I like Brian. I mean Baez. I'm getting all confused with these bees. It's been a long day. Done a lot of streaming since Friday, and I got more to do later. Brandel, skeptical on Rendon due to his injury history, but then again, he fits with. Well, you don't, you sign him to maybe a 1 or 2 year contract. He's probably going to want a 3 or 4 year contract. I would not do that. I'd sign him to a 1 or 2 year contract. Eh. Oh, okay. Thank you, Brian. I wasn't sure. They say December 1st, and everything gets all screwed up. Thank you. From Steve Perez, my brother, diehard Yankee fan, just compared Lewis Brinson to Billy Beane, 5'2" player who never realized any of the five. Billy Beane as a player. Former Met, by the way. Former number one pick of the Mets. He's the second move that the Frank Cashin era had. The first one was picking Darryl Strawberry. He was the second pick in that draft for the Mets. The number one pick. And he bombed. Darryl was a great player, to get in the Hall of Fame, and Bean was nothing. You get the star in Moneyball, at Brad Pitt a star as him. But so Billy Bean, boy, I did mention that a friend of mine told me that Billy wasn't gonna come here because the Mets, his family wasn't gonna move here. They just weren't interested in coming here. Um, so that was sort of the end of that when it came to sort of dreams of getting Billy Bean here. But I think the Mets got a good guy. They got a very aggressive general manager here. He's a very good general manager. Very, very aggressive. So, very, very aggressive. Um, but we'll see what happens over the next few days. I guess the next day or so. Again, I'm gonna try to drag this out, but I'm getting awfully tired. Getting awfully tired right now, and I'm losing my voice at the moment. So I might just call this a live stream in a minute or so. But I will be back tomorrow in the afternoon. I think in the afternoon, the morning. I'll see what I can do on the baseball hut too. So we can talk about. Hopefully, there's some moves that are going to happen over the next couple of. It's funny you should mention that, Matthew. I did mention that the Mets were interested in bringing him back. I am not on board with that either. By the way, Richard asks, wasn't Clint Hurdle a former number one pick? Yes, but not with the New York Mets, but with the Kansas City Royals, if I remember right. He did play for the Mets at the end of his career, but he was a draft pick by the Royals. He was considered like one of the best prospects ever, Clint Hurdle. Well, that's a name from the past. Yeah, that's a name we haven't heard in a while. That's a name we haven't heard in a very long time. Is Clint Hurdle? Clint Hurdle, the player. He was a guy that bombed. So he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and that was it. Never to be seen again. And he started bouncing around. He was with the Royals, then he's with the Cardinals, and finished up with the Mets. You know, so just check my feed. Um, It'll be interesting to see because I know the Mets have been talking to the Yankees about Gary Sanchez. What are they thinking? Gary can't play the position. Gary is not a catcher. He's not a catcher. He's not a major league catcher, and his offense is a disaster. So I don't know why the Mets have been talking about him. Let me see. Let me just see real quick here. I do know that I forgot to mention this. It's been a long day. There is a mystery team attached to Chris Bryant. These Scott Boras players um, always have a mystery team attached, and he has a mystery team attached to him. I wonder who that could be. Maybe it's the Mets. Maybe it's the Mets. You never know. But let me just run through do a couple of things because I am getting tired at the moment. Marcus Stroman, I heard the Cardinals, but I don't know where he's going to go. And after his sort of display online, I wonder if he scared some teams off. He's going to have a tough time getting the kind of contract that he wants. Hope he doesn't cry about it. I know he's not crying anymore about not coming back since Max Scherzer is here, by the way. Well, I'm getting tired. I need to lay down for a little bit. And thank you all for coming by. We'll do this again tomorrow when I have a lot more energy during the day. And thank you for coming by. Thanks for all the great comments. And of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. We'll be back tomorrow on the Baseball Hut too. Thank you. Have a good night. And I'll see you later.